We're live. I'm cold. I still have my hat on. I got new headphones, and UConn just beat a bottom 3 Big East team in overtime. I don't even know how we feel tonight, but we're happy for the win. Guess what? You're locked on live.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's live show, I want to just say how thankful we are for all of you. We have a bunch of people on live right now. People will see this afterwards. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world, and we're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. And to show that gratitude, we're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, to Kevin Solomon and those guys. Love helping them out. They're sending kids to UConn games. They send them to hockey games, men's and women's, baseball, the whole deal. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. For the first whistle to the final drive, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. I got a bunch of people in the chat. We got people that we're going to bring in, but what I want to bring in is our contributors. Let's talk to, we have Bella Tamano. We have Dan Meehan, as always. Bella is a Locked On UConn contributor. She does 2 days a week with us as a Locked On UConn host and is a contributor to the Hoops Capital of the World. She'll have another great piece on Aubrey Griffin being back with the UConn women. So make sure you check that out. We have Dan Meehan, owner and founder of X68, two-time host of Locked On UConn per week with us. He is a fantastic addition, does a bunch of social media for us. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't had to say that before, so thank you for joining us, Bella. I sent the text to Dan before this game and said, in the middle of this game, and said, I probably shouldn't do live tonight because I'm so pissed off that I don't necessarily want to give my thoughts on this game. I'm going to go ladies first. Bella, what did you see from this game?
A lot of negatives, definitely a lot of negatives. But the one thing I'll say is I feel like as UConn fans, and I'm definitely one of them, I fall into that category, is I feel like we do it to ourselves. I mean, you just had two picture-perfect years from UConn basketball and 2 incredible national championships brought back home to Storrs, Connecticut. What do you expect this year? You know what I'm saying? That's the one thing I'll say. I get it, but the problem is, like, you can't go out and say, okay, we lost Donovan Clingan, we lost Stephon Castle, we lost our heart and soul, Cam Spencer, and expect us to come out and have another good season. I'm a Patriots fan, and the thing is, it's like when Brady left, it's like when you lose, you know, the pride of your team, you know, it's hard to not root for them and expect more from them. But at the end of the day, I think this is a Huskies team that we might have to kind of roll with for the next couple of weeks, especially the rest of the season. Do I think they can surprise us, especially when McNeely gets back? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if you're UConn fans, I think your expectations have to kind of sit at this, and anything beyond, I think, maybe even the Sweet 16 is better than I think we could hope for.
Well said, Dan. I want your thoughts, but also before we get to that, can you answer that question for us, Bella? There was a question about your hat. Where does one find that logo? Where does one? I'm trying to find it. I put it up there.
Yeah, I got it for a birthday gift, as a birthday gift. So I'm not quite sure. I can get the link, and I mean, if we can.
Looks like a sad Husky logo that people are always enamored with.
Like one of the OG logos before that kind of like one that Dan's wearing. I think it was.
That looks like a mid-90s fused with the depressed Husky.
I can try to get the link and send it to you if you're able to like drop it in the chat, or I don't know if I'd be able to drop it in the chat, but the person who got me it, I believe, is listening. So if they can send it to me, then we can get you the link, whoever's asking for it.
All right, Dan. We'll do that. But you're a business owner. I'm still rocking your shirt. This is the same shirt I wore this afternoon for the recording. So I've been rocking the wrench all day.
You and I are sweating in our Exit 68 gear after that terrible game we all just watched. Speaking of depressed Huskies, I am one myself after watching that display tonight in Hartford. I'm just going to go through a steady stream of thoughts and some notes I took during the game. I thought Terrace Reed was great to start this game through the first 10 minutes. I thought everyone was active defensively, locked in for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. Thought Sampson started the game strong. A tough couple early minutes for Ahmad Noel relegates him to the bench for the rest of the game. You and I talked about it before the game during the preview pod, Mark. Mm-hmm. Hurley wanted to take Hassan Diarra. Does not want to play him 40 minutes a night. Hassan ends up playing 41 tonight out of necessity once again in a close game against a bottom-tier team in the conference. I don't think anyone coming into this game, the spread was 13.5 going into tip. I don't know if anyone thought after what we've been watching recently that UConn was really going to crush this team, but it was way too close. It's just throughout that second half, I was just kind of in a trance. I don't know. The game was just close the whole time. They weren't necessarily playing terrible, but they weren't playing good either. The thing that I take away from this game the most, and shout out to Solo Ball, who was awesome again tonight, sets a new career high for himself with 23 points, 5 of 10 from 3. The mental lapses with this team. We talked about it in the preview podcast earlier today, Mark. You look on paper, you say UConn's winning. Their shooting splits are stronger. They're winning in the rebounding battle. They have less fouls, not tonight, but just the last few games. And you look up the scoreboard, why are we only up 3 or 4 points? It's because of the constant mental lapses that this team just has throughout the game. You see Ahmad Noel come into the game, out of bounds play, just throws the ball away. I've seen that probably 15 times throughout the season from various players. Every game it's that. Terrace Reed grabs a great rebound, turns around, puts his head down, ball gets ripped out of his hands, then commits an and one foul. It's like stuff like that. Guys getting beat ISO off the dribble. It was just
what did I say to you during the game when that happened? When Terrace,
that's why he doesn't start.
Rebound.
You want more minutes, and he plays a lights out opening 10 minutes to start the game. Sampson comes out of the game early after a strong start himself, picks up a foul. They bring in Terrace. You wonder. I tweeted during the beginning of the game, is this just Dan trying to keep Terrace loose because he hasn't played as much the last few games? Is he just trying to keep his legs warm, against a inferior opponent in the conference, keep him loose for the next few games? Or is this like a significant change that we're going to start seeing more often in the near future? Terrace has an awesome opening 10 minutes, and then just a couple dumb plays that gets him tossed on the bench. It's just no one on this team consistently seems to be able to have like a nice 15 to 20 minute stretch or play for a full half without doing something stupid. And it's keeping these lesser teams in games constantly.
So very well said. I'm going to get Joey Bell-Bonds in next, and then Bernie will go to you. But before we get Joey in here, what I will say is, like, this game is the epitome of everything we've talked about with this team. It's a microcosm of the season. They start off looking like everyone's hair is on fire, but I wrote this in my notes. It almost felt forced. And what I mean by that is it's like, Bella.
It looked like they got yelled at for 3 days.
Right. It's like if your parents yell at you. Which, listen, I'm a parent. My oldest son is almost 9 years old. If I tell him you have to clean your room or you won't get the Nintendo Switch that you're going to be able to play with all day on a snow day, which we've had here in North Carolina, then guess what he's going to do? That dude is going to be in his room like he's freaking Forrest Gump from, like Bubba Gump Shrimp. Like he's like, all the different types of shrimp, and he's cleaning his room, and it looks spotless. But if I don't challenge him, he's not going to do it. And that's what this team's mentality is. If no one's looking,
but he's doing it to get the Nintendo Switch back. He's not doing it to improve himself as a human being.
Exactly. So it's a bribery thing. And so right now, Dan Hurley is literally bribing his team to be like, hey, man, you guys are soft and you guys don't play good defense. And so they played good defense for like an 8-minute stretch, and they were up 15. And then they were like, all right, we're good. We're solid. were really solid. And then it went from 15 to 11 to 7 to now 4. And then they got a turnover. So they went up 6 at the half and then 9, or I think it was 8 at the half. So that was the ebb and flow. But that is the microcosm of this team. It is
UConn goes into the halftime up in the rebound battle, 19-15. They finished 38-38. So it fell off in the second half.
Get Joey in here. What you got, Joey?
What's up, guys? Yeah, you guys hit it right on the head. There's no one that wants to be that tough guy saying, come at me. The defense runs through me. There's Diarra, but there's no one else. I mean, it's like, hey, they'll play it in spurts they need to, but there's no, hey, I'll show good defense and I'll stop. And there's no one that wants to have that defensive identity on this team, I feel like, at times. Even offensively, too. It's offensively, they'll have a good spurt, and then they'll just disappear. But I don't know.
Offensively tonight in the second half, I just thought they hit a wall. Like, there's a bunch of guys, they're trying to run their sets. Nobody can get open off the dribble by themselves. There was a 10-minute, the closing 10 minutes in the second half, I think Solo Ball touched the ball once.
Yeah.
His hair was on fire in the first half, shooting the lights out, having a career game, and then they just go away from him. They're trying to move him off screens and do what he does best, which is curling around screens. But he's the best playmaker with the ball in his hands, I think, on offense, and they're just not getting him the ball. How many times do we need to see Hassan Diarra at the end of a shot clock situation throw up a brick? Like, try something else.
True, but there's no one else open. That's
no one moves.
No one moves. You see it. The space too with DR and Caravan. They're kind of like the problem is that there's no without McNeely.
Everyone's here.
The only guy that can create his own basket. And he's like, all right, cool. We need a shot. I got it. Solo can do it in flashes. He's a big 3 guy, but there's no one that like can
there's
make
no one
it
that's a bucket. Yo,
yeah,
honestly, there's no bucket.
That.
Like until Liam comes back, there's no one that could say, "Give me the freaking ball. I got this." Okay, like Bella and I do mostly the women's shows. If the UConn women need a bucket, who do they go to? They go to Paige. Because she's a bucket. Yep. And if they don't go to her, they can probably go to Sarah. The UConn men don't have that. They don't have a bucket. They have guys who are system guys. I've said this from the start. Like, you can't get mad at Alex for not having good games when nothing runs through him. If he's not getting open, it's because the screens aren't like. How many times has he hit an open 3 when Samson did a moving screen and then it takes away 3 points from him? Like, so, like, look, it's a bunch of that. Like, so and I will say this because I know people are like clamoring for me to be like objective. I love Dan Hurley. If I meet him in person, which I hope to on February 7th and other times when I go up there, I think he's the greatest coach in college basketball. I think he's going to continue to be. But they 100% missed a bunch of opportunities in this offseason to better this roster. I don't think they did a bad job of doubling down on the sophomores because I think that's development, and I think you just have to do that. But they didn't get buckets when they could have in the transfer portal. Terrace Reed is a work in progress. Ada Mahaney is a work in progress. These aren't finished products. These aren't the Cam Spencers. These aren't the Naheem Aleems, like the senior guys that can come in and contribute to Joey California's. That's just not who they are. Like, they are like sophomores and redshirt sophomores that they are. And that's the issue is like, it's all of it is progression. And unfortunately for this fan base, when you're coming off of 2 championships, it's not enough. Like, no. I know it sucks to say, but it's just the truth. Bella, go ahead.
But the only thing I was going to say, you guys talked about getting open and stuff. They called a timeout when there was a baseline out of bounds with, I don't know, it might have been like 25 seconds to go. And then they couldn't get the ball and had to inbound it into the backcourt. Out of a timeout, what do you, obviously, again, it's probably nothing about that Dan Hurley's saying or not saying, but how can you not draw up a play that you can at least inbound the ball, get it to somebody around the perimeter, and then run something, whether, it's pick and roll, double screen to get Caravan a 3-pointer to get him kind of in the rotation. Or like you said, Dan, Solo barely touched the ball. Why are they not trying to get it to him in that situation? Why are they inbounding it?
Unfortunately, the out of bounds play woes are nothing new. That's every game. Like they're out of bounds sets. It's a personnel issue. It's not an X's and O's thing by the coaches. It's a personnel matter, and it's that.
Hey, William.
Everywhere else on the court too.
No, I don't mean to cut off Dan, but they did win tonight, so they can win. But they didn't. They're not going to win against better opponents. Just to clarify your point, Joey. What else did you see? Because like we talked about this, like I want to see Ahmad play a little more, but guess what?
It just
no one is coming in and like wowing us. Like no one is having that magic moment where you're like, oh, you got to play that guy more.
It's just nobody wants to score. It's like, and the problem is even Diarra and Noel. It's like you're good, but the limitations of the height at times, like they can't draw their own bucket. I mean, they're just gonna get towered where they're gonna drive in the lane. They're like, all right, I can't score for this guy. Pull it back out, and then no one else is there. Let's take it back a little bit. Our offense is made to have multiple shots. Like a lot of times when we had, take it back to last year, where we draw a screenplay. And if Spencer wasn't open, it's going to Newton. And then if those two are blocked, then it's going to Carabin over the middle of the lane, if you understand what I'm saying. Nowadays, we're not seeing guys open or with the confidence to take those shots. And it's also with NIL and what's going on is we really kind of have to grow our own players because we're not going to keep bringing just new guys in. We're going to build the recruits in, get them keep going. And it's going to be a work in progress. Like this team reminds me a lot of the 2022-2023 team where they have to hit at all strides at the right time and we can still be great, but they have to bring it out of them. And
we've made some of those comparisons to the 22-23 team on the pod a few times. Like the solo ball, Jordan Hawkins overlap there is obvious. Coming around screens, they have a similar game. Jordan Hawkins was 3 inches taller than Solo Ball. So Dan Hurley alluded to it yesterday in his media availability. This time that year in 22-23, Jordan Hawkins was a more sturdy defender than Solo Ball is now. That's a stat. That's not will. That's not effort. That's a stature thing. Like 3 inches is a big deal on defense. When you're talking about three, I know Solo Ball's got the long wingspan. He can clog passing lanes, but he's got some deficiencies height-wise, as does 3 or 4 guys that plays premier minutes on this team. That when you're talking about 5 guys on the court and 3 of them are undersized compared to the guy across from them, that's a problem.
100%. And that's one of the
limitations. And you can't fix it. You can't fix it.
Well, you can't fix height, but you can fix the wanting to be in that spot and the defensive toughness. Nobody has it. And I mean, the guys have it. They've got to bring it out of them. It's like what?
I'm in the minority there. I don't think it can be fixed. You can play. You can give me some effort. Those guys played well in the first 10 minutes, and they were winning big. That's great. But like, as the game goes on, different rotations are coming in the game. Like these guys, they're trying. They're shooting 50, 35, 80 across the board. Like every game, they're playing well offensively. They're trying. I promise you they're trying. To all the fans out there, they're not bums. They're trying. It just might be a stature and a personnel matter at this point. And I think Dan Hurley is coming to the saddening conclusion that might be the case.
All right, real quick, before you go, I got to take a break and get to this ad, and then we'll come back and we'll get Bernie in here. Bernie, you're on the clock, bro. Remember, no longer than like a minute or two. I don't want to have to kick you off. You're one of my favorites. But Joey, you stay on. Real quick, I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll talk about the rest of this game. Defensive struggles, some physicality issues after this. All right, FanDuel, my friends here. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel has you covered. If you're a new customer, what do you do with FanDuel? You bet $5, you get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep that action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate. The variety of bets keeps every game exciting. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or looking to just add some excitement to playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we'll keep our buddies up there with FanDuel. Bella, I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to get Bernie in here. Let's see if we can get him to the stage. Bernie, you're on, but let's get Bella's take, and then we'll let you talk. Go ahead, Bella.
Quick thing on the hat, limited edition Nike hat. So don't know if it's still around. That's the only thing. But going on to exactly what Dan said, I agree with it being a personnel personnel issue. The biggest thing for me is, I know we talked about this, Mark, when we kind of analyzed the girls' games, is when Paige went out on injury and when AZ, had her injuries as well, that was an opportunity for other girls on the team to step up and have some identity. Yes, the girls were playing obviously way, way lower caliber teams, but again, this is a DePaul team that UConn fully had the opportunity to get. They should have put themselves in the position early enough in the game where they could have played some players and gotten Yusuf Singare some more minutes. Jaden Ross, finally let him get in a groove, but they didn't allow themselves to do that. And with a guy like Liam McNeely out, that's what they should have been doing. And that's what should have been expected, is find some identity without Liam McNeely. And again, they are not able to do it.
No, I agree with you. And one correction, I do it all the time. Like, I'm not making fun at all, but like it was Butler, not DePaul, but about the same. But no. Listen, I don't want to. I'm saving you from the comments that will come in off of that. But also on top of that, you're right. You're 1,000% right. Before we go to Bernie, like, how do you get guys like Jay Ross? How do you, like, I got a guy in here who consistently talks about he wants to see Isaiah Abraham get minutes. How do you get Isaiah Abraham minutes if you guys don't blow a team out that's 1-6 in the Big East? Like, how do you get this guy some run? Like, you're taking him out over Jay Stu? Like, Jay Stu is like, has the opportunity to potentially give you 15, 16 points, but also is one of the best high-low passers that is on the UConn roster. And like, that's why he's in there right now, because Liam is out. Like, you just don't mess with the rotation just because you want to mix it up. Like, this isn't, I say this 1,000 times. It's not fantasy football, guys. Like, you can't just like on a whim, just be like, I'm gonna just throw Yusuf in, like, and just see what happens. Like, there's circumstances that have to happen for that to come through. Bernie, hit me up, bro. And be as succinct as you possibly can, Bernie.
Succinct. It was tonight. We almost lost to a player by the last name of Bizjack. Okay, that says it all. Bizjack. All right. It almost was like, if reading the comments and everything else like that, it was almost like UConn was on the Titanic and the iceberg hit them and they started sinking, and Alex Caravan was Leonardo DiCaprio, and Dan Hurley was Kate Winslet, and Kate Winslet let Alex Caravan go as he floated down to the bottom.
You're wild. You're wild. Hey, Bernie, before you finish, can I just tell you what I wrote in my notes? I said, we let a kid, this is something I literally wrote down because you said this kid's name. We let a kid named Finley Bizjack, who sounds like a hobbit from the Lord of the Rings, keep this Butler team in it. So I had the exact same feeling you had, except for the Titanic.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, yeah, a win is a win, and yes, we're 16-2 in the Big East, and we're 14-5. But all things considering, they need to get somebody else the ball and not have Hassan Diarra try to hit buzzer beaters at the end of the game. How about give the ball to the hottest player on the team who's making all the shots? Give it to Solo Ball, or give it to somebody who might have more experience at that last second shot, or knows how to hit those big clutch shots like Alex.
But who is that? But Bernie, who is that? Like
well, right now it's nobody.
But hold on. That's the problem. Is like, look, this isn't a Hassan Diarra issue. This isn't a he shouldn't be taking the last shot. Hassan has done a great job this year of elevating his game. He's not that guy. He's not Tristan. He's not Cam. He's not Steph. But what are you supposed to do? Like, as a former basketball player, as a former professional athlete, like, if I'm in a pickup game and I'm not the primary scorer, but Joey gives me the ball, and I know that Dan is my primary scorer, but he's literally getting locked up, and there's only 5 seconds on the shot clock, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just like go, well, I'm not that good, so I'll just pass it up, and then we just won't shoot. No. Like, but that's what's happening. But that's exactly what's happening, Bernie. Like, no disrespect, but like, those situations are happening. He's getting the ball and there's no one moving. This ball sticks now. I've heard it on multiple broadcast now, where
Mhm.
the analysts say the reason why this team is hanging around and why they lost to Marquette is because Marquette goes pass, 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 movement, movement, movement. The ball doesn't stick with them. The ball sticks with us. Have you noticed that we give the ball to Sampson at the top of the key every single time we break down our offense? Because no one is moving into the position that Dan wants. If the system is supposed to work, everyone has to. What's the line, guys? The music never stops. Well, guess what? The music's fucking stopping right now. A bunch. Sorry,
I can tell you one thing that Dan Hurley
later.
It's very indicative of the things that Dan Hurley values is the recruiting class that is coming in next year. 6'5" at every or taller at every single position. After seeing what he's seeing early this year in this off season, I saw it as early as this August when I went on campus for that early scrimmage. Joey, I'm sure you were there too. The ball, like you said, Mark, just sticks. There's a two-time all-time Big East player and a guy with his number hanging on the wall at Gamble Pavilion named Tristan Newton that made life very easy for this team the last 2 years. Unfortunately for this year's team, the guy with probably the least amount of capability on the offensive end has the ball in his hands the most in Hassan Diarra. Going down the box score tonight, Caravan, 8 of 17, 50% from the field. Jay Stu, 2 of 3. Samson Johnson, 5 of 8. Stolo Ball, career night, 8 of 14 and 5 of 10 from 3. Hassan Diarra, 2 for 11. That's why this game was close. And I'm not singling out Hassan for any one reason. That's not my intention here, but he's got 7 boards, 9 assists, 3 steals. He plays incredible everywhere else, but he's 2 of 11 from the field. That's where he's most deficient as a basketball player. I don't think that they want to have to play him 40 minutes. Hurley said it yesterday. That's out of necessity. Guys like Hassan Diarra, Jaden Ross has been a dud on offense this season. He still needs another year of maturing on that end of the floor. He plays active defense and he's engaged defensively, but the offensive game just hasn't come around the way that they had hoped. We were told he could shoot the lever off the ball. Hasn't happened yet. So he can't shoot yet. It's just not there yet. So you look elsewhere to see where the offense is going to come from. You've got a guy in Al Karaban who's incredible moving without the ball. Princeton back cuts, setting screens. He scores his points predominantly the last 2 years, moving around the court and getting set up by other guys. He's not incredible off the dribble. There's way too many instances with this team offensively at the end of shot clocks where Hassan is stuck with the ball in his hand because guys can't get open. So we're left with probably the guy that has the ball in his hands the most and is the most uncreative with the ball in his hands taking some of these shots. It's a problem.
Joey, give me your thoughts, and then I'm going to go to Bernie, and then we'll drop you, Joey, after that, and get someone else in.
The energy too. I mean, we gotta, especially when things like that stuff, we gotta make it loud. I mean, there's so many times at Gamble, even the XL Center. It's like, get up, guys, stand up, get loud. It's carry that momentum, pack that house. I remember a good quote that I'm gonna say that Gino said when he came to the Michigan UConn game. He's like, if you guys want to be at a top level, you have to pack it like this and be loud. Same thing with UConn. It's like we have to back as that wall, that 12th defender, but the next person to be loud, carry the energy. And times it's even that we're just like fighting to get up and just make it loud and be that energy. But Dan, you made very good points, and I saw that too. You see it, but I would take Hassan taking that shot, then a turnover and forcing it too. I mean, that's what you're seeing, but guys just don't want to be good. I mean, the energy's there, just to want to make that shot, want to take it.
I think this coaching staff is searching for answers the same way us and all these callers are.
Yeah.
We don't have the answers, and I don't think the coaching staff does either.
It's like those things. You can bring them to water. It doesn't mean they're going to drink it.
I honestly, Joey, I'm so glad you said that, because during our recording this afternoon, I almost said that because it's cliche but it's true. Like you can even bring it to like I said, I'm a parent. Like you can have your kids be great kids. But what I love about my kids is when I bring them to other people's houses, they always go, man, they're so well behaved. They don't do that at my house. They're a bunch of hellions at my house. But when they're coming to Joey's house, you know what they're going to do? They're going to go, hey, Joey, they're going to go, Mr. Bail Bonds, can I please have something to drink? And that's what I want. Like, I'm being serious. Like that's how they would talk to you, because that's how we've trained them. But if they're at my house, they're a god darn, just, I'm going to sound like Roy Williams down here in North Carolina, god dang, just a bunch of just roughnecks. They're like, give me my freaking Switch right now because I deserve it. Like but I'd rather them be that way overtly. And that's what Dan Hurley wants. He wants them to be like just absolute psychopaths on the court. If they want to be nice off the court, cool. But like on the court, they gotta be hellions. So real quick, Joey, I know you've jumped on this show a bunch.
Yeah.
Why don't you, we have the most people live we've ever had in our entire time on the show right now. Tell people if they ever need your services in Connecticut, where they can find you, because I know this is an unpaid advertising, but I don't give a rip because you're my boy.
I appreciate that. Connecticut, find me on Google, Instagram, search Joey Bail Bonds. You'll find me. Hopefully you never need me, but if you do, if you don't even need me, call me. If you have any questions, I got you. Joey Bail Bonds. Hit me up on Google, Facebook, Instagram. Find me. I appreciate you guys. Number's 860-916-6747. Appreciate you guys. Hey, have a great night. Bella, pleasure finally meet you.
Joe, you're the best, man. All right, Bernie, before you go, I got to get Bella's take on this, and then I'm going to go Bernie, and then I'm going to bring one other person in. Bella, what you got?
I was just going to say, I think Dan said, like, the next year's recruiting class, Hurley is excited for it, as, you know, as anyone would be. I think physically we lack a lot of height, a lot of physicality on that side. So, do we look at this year as kind of like a rebuild and kind of say, okay, like, take our medicine and move on to next season. Again, it's still early. It's only January. And I think, like, you know, the shows where it's like, you know, way too early overreactions. Right now, that's a little bit kind of projecting that to a certain extent. But at the same time, I think, like, if McNeely comes back, we were supposed to return. When McNeely returned, we were supposed to have him come back to a better team. And we've only regressed without him. So coming back, he's going to not only have to play the way he was playing, coming back off an injury, but also improve and be even more of a scorer. And that's not what we want to see. So that's what I'm saying. Going forward, I mean, if McNeely can't pick up the pieces when he gets back, hopefully he's back late January, early February. But if he can't come back and figure something out, and if they can't find a way to win games, at least to a convincingly enough, you know, whether like tonight should have been at least 15 plus. Like, I know a couple people commented in. If that can't happen, then I think you got to move on to next year. And again, teams have surprised us before. Can't count out UConn, right? They've always been that kind of that comes from behind. But I don't know. I mean, I just think that at this point in time, like you said, next year's recruiting class looks nice. So I mean, I'm excited for that. But again, maybe it's an overreaction. But right now, I feel like it could be.
Bill, I don't think it's an overreaction. What I want to hear is Bernie's overreaction. Go, Bernie. And then we're going to get to a break.
Yeah, my overreaction. I wish I had a cool name like Joey Bail Bonds, you know? Call me Bernie Smoke Detector. Call me Bernie Smoke Detector or
Bernie Smokes.
We'll call you Bernie Beeps, the smoke detector. Bernie Beeps.
Yeah. Oh, there's another beep. Oop, another miss. But no.
No James Breeding for you tonight, Bernie. No James Breeding to complain about.
No. Actually, I was surprised. You know, this is the first time in like a long time there was no James Breeding. I can blame tonight. It's amazing. But no, I agree with what Bella is saying. But also, I agree with the fact that, you know what? I actually tweeted Dan earlier about Braylon Mullins. I'm like, just give him the Big East Freshman of the Year right now. He's a dog, man. He's shooting 80-something%, and he's just making shots. He's just looking like national freshman of the year.
It's going to be a McDonald's All-American.
Oh, my God. Next year's team is going to be scary good. But I don't want people to think I'm down on Diarra. Diarra has done so much for this team and everything else like that. I think the thing is, and Bella made a great point when she spoke earlier. I think for the last 2 years, we have been so we've had perfection on the court. You know, last year's team lost only 3 games. That team ran plays, did everything perfectly. We didn't really have very much to complain about last year, if anything at all. And I think that this year's team is not as mature as last year's team, because last year's team, you know, after winning the 2023 championship, we had players coming back from that team who knew the sets, who knew the place. We had taller players, taller guards who can see over the defense. We don't have that this year.
The
And I
lob
think
game has suffered because of that 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's the frustration is for a lot of UConn fans is that what we think we have seen the last 2 years is just going to repeat for a third year or a fourth year. We're not UCLA. We're UConn. And this is something we're not used to. Yes, we're used to winning championships. When you win back-to-back national championships, you can't automatically assume, okay, whatever play we're going to get put in, it's going to be the same thing all over again. And that's not the case. And we have to sort of take everything with a grain of salt and realize that. I mean,
The other thing,
yes.
Bernie, is I think you're spot on. Like, but I also said this to someone that was in my messages earlier, and then I'm going to go to a break, which is, look, I don't want us to be Kentucky. Like, I say that in I don't even say that in like hyperbole. I'm dead serious. I don't want us to be Big Blue Nation. Like, I never want UConn fans to be BBN ever.
No.
And the reason why is because their hyper ridiculousness has led to coaches making terrible decisions. Like, you have to trust that this coaching staff, who has won you back-to-back national championships, we're not even in the NCAA tournament. We haven't lost. The season's not over. And no team has ever gotten past the Sweet 16 coming off of a back-to-back other than UCLA when they won 3 straight. So you have to understand that it's a process. If you and I said this to Dan. Dan, remember this episode where I told you about how I showed a clip of Gino talking about how he told Dan that winning his second national championship would be the best day of his life and also the worst day of his life, because he's always going to want to be obsessed with getting back here. And
lose-lose
situation. It's a lose-lose situation. And now UConn Plus, sponsored by Jordan Furniture, who's another unpaid ad. I'm doing all kinds of unpaid ads tonight. Did a great piece, and I'm super excited. I mean, hell, come sponsor our show. That was a fantastic first episode of the Goats, like talking about like coaching and what it takes to create a program. So like all of this stuff has to be done with a grain of salt. Like, yes, Hassan Diarra, I saw a great quote here. Hassan was a sixth man last year, and now is being kind of overcast. That's true, but we're asking guys to step up. We're not replacing them as other teams are doing in the portal. That's the difference between Dan Hurley and insert coach here, John Calipari. You don't understand what I'm saying? Like, so as I go to this break, just gnaw on that for a second. I'm going to talk about Prize Picks, really important ad for us about how you can win money on more or less. So we're going to talk about that really fast, and then we're going to close the show on we got the win. We should all be happy. All right, Prize Picks. You're my favorite ad of all time. And your message is brought to you with 10 million members and billions in winnings. Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. I use it all the time, whether it's regular season, playoffs, as we're getting into playoffs. Now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get on the action with Prize Picks. Here's how it works. Look, you can do more or less on at least 2 players, all the way up to, I think, 9, and you can get up to 1,000 times your cash. So if you want to bet $5, you get $5,000 at 1,000 times your cash just by making a few correct picks. No big deal. So for me, I'm all about hot takes this year, right? I'm going to look at AFC NFC Championship game. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be under or less than 183 passing yards, and I think Travis Kelce is going to be over 69.5 passing yards in the NFC Championship game. That is my 2 pick of the day. Use the app, ready to run your game this football season. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 bet. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we're back. Bernie, last moment, and then I'm going to get Bella in here, then Dan, then we're going to get one more caller.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, as UConn fans, have to realize, you know what? This is the team we have right now. We gotta support the team, and like Joey Belbon said, the crowd has got to get more involved. I mean, the crowd was involved tonight, but against Creighton, the crowd needs to just pump this team up. The energy, the vibrance of this crowd. I remember when we played Villanova a couple of years ago, the energy of that crowd, they wanted to win that game, and the just the craziness of that game. Even watching it on TV, I had to turn down the volume. It was that loud. I mean, that's what this team needs. They need that, and I think that is something like the confidence boost that you need, because I think this team sometimes just needs a boost of confidence in themselves. Yelling and screaming at them, yes, works for only a brief amount of time. But eventually, this team has to learn that, you know what? The crowd's not always going to be there. The coaches can only yell so much. You got to get the work done on the court yourself. It is on you to get it done. And if you can't get it done, then it has nothing to do with coaching. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's on them. So, yeah. It's great they're 6-2 in conference. Yes, it's great they're 14-5. But if they lose against Xavier, it's like we're going to go back to the drawing board again. Oh, we have to yell at them because they're soft and everything else like that. It's not going to work. You can't keep on doing it. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's the Big East. You got to prepare every single game for the Big East, because even the worst team can beat the best team at any given night. DePaul beat Georgetown. I know Georgetown's not a great team, but look what Georgetown did against Villanova. They came from behind one at the end of the game. You got to prepare yourself. You got to set yourself up for every single game. You're right. It's January, but this is to prepare you for what's ahead. And if you are not prepared for what's ahead, then you're going to fail in February, and you're going to fail in March, and then you're going to wonder what could have been if you don't get the job done right.
Bernie,
and that's all I got to say.
Bernie beeps. We're gonna drop you off and go to Bella, and then Dan, and then I want to get okay if you're still on the if we have one more person waiting. So
bye,
you,
guys. See you.
Appreciate you, brother.
See you. And Mark, thank you again for what you did. You are one of the best people out there, and you know what? You are always have a friend in me. And Bella, nice to talk to you as well. You are awesome as well, and I love the hat.
Thank you.
And Dan.
Thank you.
And Dan, hand. All right, you take care. All right, bye.
All right, Bernie. Love you, brother. Let's get OK in here, and then okay, I'm gonna have you sit back for a second. Before I go to Bella, this is how I want to do it. Dan wanted to read some quotes that he has for us from the postseason and from the post game. Then I'm gonna go to Bella. Then I want to get OK's last comment of the day if he's ready for it. Go ahead.
I'm just going to rip off a few quotes from our buddy Sam Calhoun, tweeting some some quotes from Hurley in the post-game presser. Dan Hurley, quote-unquote, relieved. I think we all are. I'm not sure we're good enough right now to take a 15-point lead and take it to 24. We've made too many mistakes. Dan Hurley on solo ball. His beginning of the game defensively was not very good. Dan Hurley on Hassan Diarra with the ball at the end of the shot clock. We just don't have a lot of shot creators. Dan Hurley, I don't think we have a lot of guys that are really good on defense right now. That could just be consistent. that can consistently be in the right spots. And then a couple complaints about the refereeing. We got held the whole game. Look at the free throw differential. Where's the freedom of movement? And even with Liam McNeely out, we could easily be undefeated in the league if things broke differently for us. Alex Caravan on Coach Hurley calling the team out through the media. We should react to that as a challenge. That's a great response from a captain and a veteran.
Yep.
Alex Caravan on the Cintas Center. I think it's one of the most underrated venues in the country. And Alex Caravan on Terrace Reed's clutch play. I'll pay for his food tomorrow. So some of these comments from Hurley are very player specific. It seems as though he might be done mincing words and trying to protect these guys in the media. I don't think he's necessarily calling them out. I don't think that's an agenda of his or a plan, some hidden agenda to try to get them to play better. I think he might be out of hand.
Pissed.
He's angry. He's frustrated. He's relieved, like he said. But I think he just might be like, I don't know what else to turn to here. It is what it is.
Bella, your thoughts?
So a couple things. First off, Bernie, love him. Great guy. Second off, Sam Calhoun, shout out. I broadcasted a couple games with him so far this year. Hope to do a couple more. But as I was going to say, I think when Bernie was talking, he said, fans, it's tough. UConn's given us so much. And, I mean, you can see my setup back here. I got Yankees, I got Celtics, and I got Patriots. It doesn't really
Austin
get
in New
more.
York. Ew.
I'm Connecticut. I know it's tough. It's a long story. It's a story for a different day. But the word we're looking for is it's a spoil. I'm as spoiled as they come when it comes to fan bases. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful for it. But I think that's what it kind of is this year. It's obviously a more spoiled feeling. And then the other thing I think is you talked about winning back-to-back national championship. You chase that feeling. You're chasing that high of, winning 2 huge victories like that. Winning also leads to complacency. And what I mean by that is when you have some sophomores and some juniors that have already won 1 national championship or 2 national championships, you come in the next year expecting to carry on that legacy because you've done it for the last 2 years. And that isn't the case. You still have to work hard, especially transfers and recruits. Aiden Mahaney and don't get me wrong. I mean, they've been playing. It's not like they're not trying, right? Like Dan said earlier, they're not trying to play bad. They just struggling, and there's no answers for it right now. It might be a personnel issue. Who knows? But that's the thing. Like, they can't in their head think just because we won the last 2 years means that we're still a top school in the country. They still have to work for it, and they still have to earn that title. And I think right 100%. Now, and to be honest with you, right now, I feel like we're getting lucky in the top 25, AP polls and everything like that. We're the 19th team in the country right now. St. John's is 20. Right now, we may not be. No, I as of last night.
No, I'm saying like we might not be a top 20 team. Like in my opinion, like if you think of like what we talked, like Dan and I did like the deep dive earlier today. Like the metrics don't really kind of compete with that. Like we're a top 20 team by perception right now.
Exactly.
But that's part of being a national champion. Like I don't agree that Kansas is a top 15 team in the country, but they play in a bigger league than us, and they've only lost quad 1 games, but they've still lost some games to unranked teams. So like it just really comes down to like that perception aspect of things. All right, let's get okay in here. What's up, man? You've been waiting for a long time. I apologize. Give me your thoughts on today's game.
No, you're all good. I think I'll run with some positive things. First, I want to say that like the Caravan is definitely our best leader, but Liam, I think, is probably our best player. And I think any team is going to have a tough time going out there without their best player. Like he comes 100%. In, and that's just an immediate boost. And I don't think that like we are going to be a worse team when he comes back. Like I want to get rid of that ideology because Solo has stepped up tremendously. And I think when we come back with him and he's going at this level and Stewie playing as well as he has, I think he should be like solidly in there. I don't know. My take right now is Liam for Hassan because the ball movement right there just isn't it. Like nobody moves. We have people just standing around on the side. There's no cutting. We got to have a different way to facilitate some offense. And I don't think Dan Hurley's like okay with all this. Like I think he has to be watching this and saying the offense just isn't clicking. We got to try something different.
He knows. He sees it. Like he's not lost. It's not lost on him. I think when Liam comes back, it allows everyone on the roster to kind of just revert back to a place that they're more comfortable on the court. And back to what they do best. Like Hassan, I don't think anyone wants the ball in his hands this much. Hurley doesn't want him playing 40 minutes a night. He wants him to be a defensive stopper and set guys up. Once McNeely comes back, the ball's going to be less in his hands. Terrace Reese and Stanton Johnson aren't going to have the ball at the top of the key, looking like deer in the headlights as much. Alex will be able to move better without the ball, and Solo Ball can just keep doing what he's doing. So I think we're all waiting for Liam to get back healthy.
What I'll tell you is that before we close the show out, and I appreciate you, okay, like I love that you are trying to shine a positive on it because I see a lot of negative stuff in the comments because I am so distracted. This guy Chris D is talking about how like stop pretending Liam is some magical unicorn, bro. Like he's a freshman 5-star All-American. I'm gonna say a name right now that people are gonna be like, oh, you're conflating two different things. Who is Liam's teammate in high school last year? Pretty good player. Oh, hey, Cooper Flagg. If Cooper Flagg sprains his ankle and goes out for a month, how far does Duke fall? How far does Duke fall from 2 in the net to number
They're
2
not in the
AP
top
ball.
25.
They're not in the top 20. They're not in the top 20. Maybe in the top 25. They're going to get ranked because they're Duke, and they're going to. The ACC is trash, so they're going to continue to. And guess what? And by the way, I have zero access. So Chris, you can shove whatever it is up your big ass because I have zero access to UConn athletics. I've tried, and they say no because you're a podcast, even though we have the #1 show in the country when it comes to UConn basketball. So you can take whatever bullshit you think you know and take it and shove it up your ass, okay? So, hey, by the way, you can't stop hacks. You can't stop fans from being dumb. So I know this is probably going to go viral or maybe semi-viral because it's UConn only, but let me tell you something. I don't have any access to this team. I've been on 2 press conferences with Dan Hurley. How many have they had this year? 30? So don't give me that shit where I'm all of a sudden just sucking up to the team. This is not about that. Liam McNeely is the most impactful player in UConn's offense, and they have zero access to him now because he has a sprained ankle. Stop with the nonsense. Stop.
One good thing. You want a positive from tonight? I saw Liam sprint into the locker room when halftime happened tonight. So ankle might be getting better.
I love it. Bella, do you want to take us home on a positive before I lose my mind?
I mean, I think each of you hit the nail on the head there. I think the biggest positive, yeah. I mean, who do they have coming up?
We're at Xavier and then back at home.
Okay. So, and then it goes to right. Xavier, DePaul, and then Marquette. Is that right?
Yeah. So
coming up end of January.
Next game, they're at Cintas, at home at Gampel against DePaul. We said it on the preview pod. Those aren't must-win games. Those are can't-lose games. And then the back half of this loaded, tough schedule in the Big East starts. You're at Marquette, St. John's, at Creighton, St. John's again, Marquette again. Like, it doesn't get any easier. The next few games are must-wins.
Yeah, so McNeely's going to come back. Hopefully, I mean, do they have they said end of January. Do we have an official timestamp on that at all, or is it just kind of more speculation?
Hurley said a week ago he still hopes end of January. When he first got hurt, we forecasted him coming back either for Marquette or the home game against St. John's.
So I think it's huge if you see him come back for Marquette because that's going to be your real test of the season, right? Right now, you can get by winning these games. Obviously, it doesn't look great, but you know what? It doesn't always have to be pretty. It doesn't always have to be pretty, and that's the way I look at it tonight. Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but you know what? We're back in the win column. We have 2, like you said, can't lose games, and then you go to Marquette. These next 2 games, you have to lock in. Mentally is going to be the biggest thing. You got to go in Marquette and show people, listen, this was a little bit of a fluke. We got McNeely back if he's back, and let's rock and roll the rest of the season, finish strong, and make a run in March.
I will calm down. I got a little excited, but I'm also going to defend myself when I'm challenged. And this guy right here, Jay Rosa, has honestly been super respectful about how he doesn't think that Liam is a bucket. That's fine, dude. Like,
go read an NBA mock draft. He's a lottery pick. He's a lottery pick.
I don't care.
He should be hyped up.
No, but I don't care about that. Like, because when you do that and you're like super respectful and like not a big POS, then I will 100% give you shine and be like, hey man, we don't agree. Cool. But when you start saying things inappropriate that I literally had to reject the comments because YouTube was saying they're more spam and it probably was more like a troll, then I have to kind of like throw people out of the chat. It's fine. Nothing wrong with disagreeing. You may not like Liam's game, cool, but he's a freshman. He's a 5-star All-American. He's going to be a top 20 pick in the NBA draft next year, whether you like it or not. He makes a difference. Shocker on this UConn team. That's what, won 3 of 5 without him, right, Dan? They're 3-2 without him. He's
3-2 now without him. He's the second most impactful freshman in the country. It's Cooper Flagg and Liam McNeely. You can talk about guys like Derek Queen out in Maryland, who was also on that Montford team last year. Maryland ain't as good. You want a freshman playing premier minutes for a top 20 basketball team. There's 2 guys in the country that are the most impactful. One's name is Liam McNeely, who's going to be a lottery pick. And then the other one is his buddy that he went to prom with, Cooper Flagg, who's going to be the consensus #1 overall draft pick. So
there you go. Bella, last word.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is the thing that I know McNeely, whether it is on off the court, if it's his leadership, the thing that won me over from him was when in Maui, in the first loss they had in Maui, gets a technical foul late in game. McNeely, a freshman, grabs every single player's, I believe they were wearing, they were in blue, I think, could be wrong, grabbed every player, I'll say, in a UConn jersey and rallied them together, and he was the one leading that huddle. And that, to me, speaks more volumes than his impact on the court. Obviously, you want the guy to score points, and he's going to. Don't let that fool you. But his leadership is second to none, and he's only a freshman. So listen, obviously he's high in the mock drafts, but I hope he stays, because if he's this much of a leader as a freshman, I want to see what he can do in the years to come. And I know it's selfish, and obviously, go get your bag, but I want him. I want him in a UConn jersey at least next year.
All right. Well, listen, great triumvirate of having Bella and Dan here tonight. UConn wins this game 70 to, what was the score? 78-76?
78-76, won by a bucket. Oh, no, 80-78, sorry.
80-78
in overtime against the Butler Bulldogs, who they have never lost to, apparently, since they won a national championship against them in 2011. Another great episode. Love you guys. We're the most people ever to watch us live, and hopefully it keeps building. So
appreciate it.
Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.